Hey team, good to see you. We're going to do a quick chat about some of the books I've been reading of late, just so that you can get the feeling of some books that might be out there, might interest you, but you never know. We'll have a look. So first one that we read over the summer was, well, one of the ones that we read over the summer was this one, recommended by Bricky. I highly recommend you see his channel. This one was about the assassins in Warhammer. It is the Assassinorium Kingmaker book by Robert Rath. Review it again. It was good. I enjoyed it. There was a lot of the book that was kind of set up with regards to the personality of the assassins. It's a Warhammer series, Warhammer novel. It took a while then to sort of you're getting about halfway before you're kind of getting really into the meat of it. And seeing what the assassins can actually do, but then it goes quite quick and there's some good battles and the like, and then it kind of ends and you're kind of left thinking, well, that was really good, and they're kind of like a team. I don't know if there are more books in the series with them as a team, or whether this was just a one-shot book. I'm not entirely sure, but it was a good story. It was good. I enjoyed that one. This one, another Warhammer book. There he is, The Avenging Son. Right, it was a Guy Haley novel. I actually think I've read it more than once, to be honest. And I read it over the break, and I was really interested in it because it talked about how it was the start of the Indomitus Crusade. It talked about how they were going to be bringing in, It talked about chaos. It talked about Robute Gilliman and the Ultramarines, all right, and their work. And yeah, I was quite interested in it. However, I was I think a little misled in a way, because I thought that Robute Gilliman would actually be more in the novel. There were quite a few storylines that it went through, and they were quite interesting stories. And there were quite a few interesting characters that it brought up, but what I don't know is whether there are, and I need to have a look, I guess, there are more books. So there's that one, which is Indomitus, so I'm guessing that follows on from this one, and maybe that'll be the next one to read, because I read about it and I read the characters and I quite liked some of them, and I thought, well, it would be good to read more about those particular characters. But as I say, there wasn't a lot in it about Robute Gilliman, so maybe not. Now, on a break from the Warhammer books, I read this one. All right, this is the Stephen King novel. It is 11/22/63. It was a really good story, quite a fascinating idea, and it led to some quite interesting discoveries, perhaps for me, on my part. I mean, it's all about the Kennedy assassination. You probably tweaked to that from the date, but also the cover. And it was a really good story, and without sort of spoiling it too much, it is a time travel story where he's able to go back in time. And is he going to stop the assassination, and what would that mean, and how will he be able to do that? And there's a lot of other aspects within there that kind of fold into place. And one of the other things that I found really interesting about the book is that he links it to the It story. If you have read the story It by Stephen King, this actually has a small link to that story, where he passes through the town of Derry, which is the setting for the It story, and he actually interacts with some characters, and he learns a little bit about the mythos with regards to the It story, which I find really quite interesting, because it's a completely different story, but he's kind of linked it to the others, which I found really quite fascinating. But there is a lot. It's very historical, it's very Americana. There's a lot of that which you might see in the movies or read in other books that I saw from that. So I highly recommend. It is a very, very good story. There is a bit at the end where I thought it was all going to go wrong for me, and I thought, if he ends it like that, I'm going to be quite cross. But then there's a quick change and it does something else, and there's enough mystery within it for you to sort of think, well, is it actually going to happen the way we think? Is he going to be able to stop the Kennedy assassination and what would the world look like, you know, all of that. So that was really good. I was put on to another series of books. I'm actually currently working through them at the moment. They are the Red Rising story. Again, they're not Warhammer ones. These are just a fantasy story. It's a little sociological, to be perfectly honest. It's about humanity having colonized the solar system. It's about basically a class warfare that's going on, and you know, people who are basically condemned forever to be a certain class in their society and what they're able to do and not, but they also don't know the truth. They don't know the reality of what the world is like. And so the first one, which is this one, which is the Red Rising one, is quite, you know, it's an introduction story, and there is a lot within it that you kind of think, oh, I've just got to get through this. It isn't hugely interesting, a lot of the aspects of the story in here, but it is what you'd need to know about the main character in order to then go on to the subsequent books. So yeah, I was a little underwhelmed perhaps by that one. I then read this one, which was the sequel, which is the Golden Sun sequel. And yeah, the battles and the strategies, and it's pretty brutal. I've got to say, it is just like, and the politicking and the intriguing of that class warfare. And he's going out to subvert the class system, and he's going out to try to, you know, revolutionize his whole world, basically. I'm up to the third book in the series. I'm about 3/4 of the way through the third book. And I've enjoyed the third book more than the first two. But when I read online that maybe the fourth one has a slight change of narrative, which might be a bit off-putting, I'm a bit hesitant. To be honest, I was struggling a bit getting through the first two. But the third one I have enjoyed quite a lot. So with that in mind, the next one that we read was this one, which is the God Emperor of Dune, carrying on in the Dune series. So I read obviously Dune, read Dune Messiah, read Children of Dune, and this is the God Emperor of Dune. There's also two others in the series. There's the Heretics of Dune, and then there's the Chapter House sort of idea. It's yeah, I mean, it's good. So it's carrying on with the story of the Dune, of the family, right, of the family Leto, and it starts getting a bit more fantasy based. There's more genetic manipulation going on. There's, without sort of spoiling it too much, there is new politicking that goes on. There's inter-family squabbling that goes on. There is, you know, other sects that start developing. There's a lot of that. It is quite weighty to get through, and a lot of dialogue without perhaps a lot of action. And then you're also thinking, why is this character doing this? It is very much subverting that kind of, this is a good guy, because I'm not entirely sure that any of them are actually good guys. And they talk about war and bloodshed and all of those sorts of things. And then the new characters that come out from it tend to be perhaps maybe not quite as enjoyable as some of the other ones. So I've just got two more of those to read. I'll make my way through those. I've got another two to read for the Red Rising. I've read all my Warhammer books for the time being, so I'll need to find some more. Please feel free to recommend some that you have read that you think are really good. I'm not a big fan of the Warhammer fantasy ones. I do like the Space Marines, I'm sorry, and I'm a big Blood Angels fan, so I'm going to be, you know, reading more of those if there are any more out there, and that's really cool. Now, otherwise, Tim, hey, it's just a quick chat about the books that I've been reading. Hey, go ahead, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.